I stepped outside that morning to grab a package, and what I saw felt like I had just walked into some absurd movie scene. Picture this: a bunch of people in tuxedos, laughing and mingling under string lights like it was some fancy wedding reception. A DJ was spinning soft jazz from the far end of my backyard, and there was even a towering floral arch above my koi pond. In the middle of all that, a bride was tossing her bouquet into the air, while someone yelled at Uncle Ron to stop feeding the turtles champagne grapes. I stood there, blinking, trying to process what in the world was going on in my own yard. That's when it hit Miss Simeone had used my private gate code. And right there, standing by the buffet table like she was the queen of the world, was Karen, the HOA president. It all clicked into place. She had given them access to my yard without asking. Now, this wasn't just any ordinary neighbor. This was Karen, the type of person who thought the world revolved around her, and my backyard was just another space she could control. At first, I didn't even know who to yell at. I was standing there in my pajamas, completely out of place in the middle of a wedding reception. Everyone else was dressed to the nines, and here I was, wearing a faded t-shirt and old sweatpants. To top it off, one of the groomsmen asked me if I was part of the staff. I mean, really? But I just stood there, blinking like I'd been hit by a truck, before I asked him if he knew this wasn't a rental venue, but my personal backyard. That's when I marched over to Karen. She was wearing her usual sun hat and carrying a clipboard like she was some sort of neighborhood general. The moment I walked up to her, she put on that fake shocked face, like she didn't have a clue what I was about to say. Before I could speak, she raised a finger in that calm down, dear way and told me it wasn't the time for drama because, a wedding was in progress. I nearly lost it right there. Apparently, her niece's wedding venue fell through last minute. So Karen, being the self-appointed queen of our little neighborhood, decided to offer up my beautifully landscaped backyard as a wedding venue, complete with a pond, pergola, and oak grove. No text, no call, just an "I'll take care of it" moment. And now, my prized lilies were being used as a backdrop for wedding selfies, and I was standing there, completely blindsided. I pulled out my phone and dialed the police. Karen didn't even flinch. She just laughed and told me I was going to call the cops on a bride. The audacity of this woman. It was almost too much. When the officer finally arrived, Karen intercepted him like a seasoned lawyer. She spun this whole story about how I had verbally approved the event and even mentioned she was the HOA president and that she'd authorized the gate code for community emergencies. I nearly choked on my own anger. The officer, probably not wanting to arrest a bride, asked if there was any real harm done. I led him around the side of the house, showing him my trampled garden, bent fencing near my drone pad, and the fish food scattered everywhere because guests had mistaken my filtration system for a wishing well. But the officer just shook his head, mumbling something about how he couldn't throw out an entire wedding without concrete proof of trespassing. So, there I was, stuck with a wrecked backyard and a citation from the HOA the next morning, delivered by none other than Karen herself. She had the audacity to claim I had violat community peace by calling the cops on a permitted event. That was the moment it hit me. I wasn't going to just let this slide. I had always tried to be the decent guy, tolerating Karen's petty rules and her constant little invasions of my privacy. I had even let her accuse my nephew's science project of attracting raccoons. But this was crossing a line. She had barged into my yard, brought over 100 strangers, disrespected my space, and got me cited for it. It was time for a change. So, I called my cousin Tony. Now, Tony was no ordinary guy. He used to ride with a local biker club called the Iron Fangs. And while these guys might look intimidating with their leather jackets, roaring engines, and tattoos, they were some of the most loyal, down-to-earth people you'd ever meet. They did charity barbecues, collected toys for Christmas, and hosted loud but respectful meetups on the weekends. A quick call to Moose, their unofficial leader, and, let's be honest, the kindest yet most terrifying man alive, was all it took. I explained the whole ridiculous situation, and after a brief pause, Moose said, "So you're telling me they threw a wedding in your yard without your permission, and you got blamed for it?" When I confirmed, he said, "That's criminal. We'll bring the grill." That was all the encouragement I needed. I made a few quick repairs to the yard, cleared out the damaged flower beds, and set up a soundproof speaker system. Moose spread the word, and I started sending out invites to everyone. Karen hated the family with the two mini garden gnomes, The teenagers who skateboard near the fountain. The guy who still had Christmas lights up in March. I even made sure to mention in the NVY Tez. Gate code Pro VY dead by Karen herself. The tension in the neighborhood was already high after the wedding debacle. I knew Karen would be watching, so I set everything up just right. Chairs circled around a fire pit, the barbecue grill prepped and ready, coolers filled with soda, and enough brisket to feed an army. By 2 p.m., the first Harley pulled up. Moose was leading the charge, his braided beard swinging as he revved his engine like it was some kind of war drum. And behind him, more bikes, all rumbling down the street and parking neatly along the side of my yard. The neighborhood, once so quiet and controlled by Karen's reign, was finally alive. And then she showed up. You could tell she was furious, pacing at the edge of the yard, trying to figure out how to confront me. When she finally stormed through the gate, clipboard in hand, she shouted, "What is going on here?" Everyone turned to look. Moose, standing by the grill with an apron that read, "License to Grill," turned around and said, "Karen, right? So good to finally meet you." Her face turned redder than I'd ever seen it. She demanded to know what I thought I was doing, claiming this was an unauthorized event. I just held up a copy of the email she had sent to the wedding planner, the one with the subject line, "Backyard approved, code 5572. No need to ask the owner." I handed it to her like I was serving her a bill at a restaurant. Then I said, "If my yard is open for weddings, then surely it's open for brisket and blues." The whole scene was pure gold. The look on her face was priceless. One of the bikers even had a stencil ready with the words, "Karen Free Zone," and held it up for her to see. Moose didn't even look at her, just flipped a steak into the grill and said, "You gave out the code, Karen. You can't ungive it just because we wear leather." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. The neighbors who had been silent for so long started to laugh, while one elderly woman named Doy shouted, "This is the first real party we've had in years." Karen sputtered something about noise ordinances, but it was weak. She had no ground to stand on. Her wedding had been louder than this. She tried calling the HOA emergency line, but it went straight to voicemail. Of course, I had invited the HOA VYC president personally. He was already 2 corn dogs deep in the crowd, laughing his lungs out. Eventually, Karen stormed off, promising legal action and muttering something about public safety. But by then, it was too late. The party rolled on, loud and proud, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was in control of my own yard again. Moose gave a short speech about respect, community, and how bikers are always unfairly judged until you give them a grill and a reason to laugh. Over the next few days, I started receiving more passive-aggressive HOA emails from Karen. First, she accused me of allowing unauthorized structures in my yard, basically my barbecue grill and lawn chairs. Then came the citation for excessive motorcycle paraphernalia, complete with a grainy photo of Moose's bike. And, of course, a citation for the excessive smoke from the barbecue. She was waging a paper war, hoping to wear me down with bureaucracy. But Karen underestimated me. I wasn't alone anymore. Moose and I documented everything: photos, security footage, timestamps. We even caught her trying to fake a safety inspection under a third-party name. I knew she was trying to make me look like a chronic VYO ladder, hoping to get me penalized or even sued. But the fire marshal was on my side, and when I showed up to the next HOA meeting, I came prepared. I presented the fake inspection letter and the citations she had issued. I showed the time-stamped photos from my cameras that disproved her claims. The board, including Paul, the VYC president who had been at the party, couldn't deny it. Karen was caught in her lies. The meeting, which had started with her usual complaints, quickly turned in my favor. The whole neighborhood started to see through her. By the end of the meeting, Karen had lost her grip on the community. People had seen her for what she really was: a power-hungry bully who manipulated the rules to control others. And for the first time in weeks, when I went home, there were no new citations in my mailbox. It was empty. And as the sun set that evening, I couldn't help but smile. Karen hadn't won. She thought she controlled everything, but I had played her game and beat her at it. But here's the thing: I knew this wouldn't be the last time she'd try to get back at me, and I wasn't going to stop. This was just the beginning. So what do you think? Was I justified in using her own rules against her? Or did I take it too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments, let's talk about it.